Hi students, welcome back to this channel English Literature with Idham. I am back with another important and fascinating topic in English literature, literary theory and the criticism, and that is the posthumanism. But this time I won't talk generally about the posthumanism, but rather how posthumanism deals with the question of the religion. As earlier I mentioned that posthumanism deconstructs the human centrality. It deconstructs the human position in the society. And as it is said that human is the most powerful and rarest species on this earth. But posthumanism says that when we keep the human at the center of the universe, it creates disparities, it creates the discrimination in the society. And our religions even say that human is the most powerful, human is the most privileged and the rarest species on this earth. And it is supreme. And it shows that somewhere that the religion is creating that kind of place where human treats itself supreme, powerful, superior, and then automatically all the other species get the inferior position. So in this video, I would be dealing with this question that how the posthumanism approaches the question of the religion. As we all know, that any religion, whether it's Islam, Hinduism, Christianity, or any other religion, there are belief systems. But posthumanism doesn't see them as a belief system only, but as a cultural narratives, as a cultural narratives that historically privileges the human centrality. So in literary studies, posthuman theory often examines how the religious ideas such as soul, divine authority, salvation, and the human uniqueness are challenged when technology, non-human intelligence, alien species, or ecological systems disrupt the boundaries of the human. And this challenging of the boundaries of the conventional ideas of the human subjectivity can be seen in various novels of the 21st century, which encounter between faith and the posthuman condition. So without wasting our time, let us begin. As one of the central idea of the posthumanism is the critique of the anthropocentrism. As anthropocentrism believes that human is at the center of the universe on the basis of some privileges, some features like rationality, intellectuality, feelings, emotions. Posthumanism critiques of that anthropocentrism and it deconstructs the central ideas, the central notions of the subjectivity. And our traditional religious framework often assumes that divine revelation is intended primarily for humans. As we don't say that after the death, the human would achieve the revelation, or there is the concept of heaven or hell. A traditional religious idea believes that. And this idea is particularly, especially associated with humans only. But posthuman literature disrupts this assumption by imagining the non-human are the alien participants in the religious experience. Posthumanism doesn't link or associate the spiritual links and spiritual experiences with the humans only, but it links them with the non-humans or the alien participants. And this idea we can see in the Michael Faber's Book of Strange New Thing. It's a beautiful novel that deals with the question of the religion. In this novel, we see a Christian missionary named Peter Lee travels to another planet called Osis. And he goes there to teach Christianity to an alien species that is known as Ozans. Surprisingly, aliens show a deep interest in the Bible and eagerly listen to Peter's teaching. And that whole experience raises a critical question that if aliens can believe in Christianity, is the Christian narrative universal rather than human specific? It also raises the question that does faith transcend the species boundaries? Or is Peter merely projecting human theology into an alien culture? So there are various questions that are raised with the actions and narratives of the Peter Lee that aliens are taught the Christianity for their personal choices or for or is it is a kind of deliberate of or deliberate act. And also raises the question, can those aliens be spiritual? Can the faith transcend the human boundaries or the species boundaries? Also raises the question whether the Peter is intentionally or deliberately projecting the human religion or human theology into the alien culture. So this novel destabilizes the idea that religion belongs uniquely to humanity. The alien's devotion appearance sincere, sincerely, yet their understanding of suffering, death, and embodiment differs radically from human experience. So, as the novel shows that the alien's devotion appears, but their understanding of suffering, death, and embodiment differs traditionally from human experience. And this idea suggests that theology itself may transform when interpreted by the non-human beings. So the novel demonstrates a post-human theological shift where religion becomes interspecies rather than anthropocentric. Next, another perspective in this post-human theory is the religion and the alien consciousness, as the post-human narrative frequently imagines in contrast with the non-human intelligences that force humans to reconsider religious conceptions. As we earlier believed that human is only intelligent and that's why it believes. So as I was saying that the intelligence was associated with the humanity only. But posthumanism deconstructs this idea, and now the machines are also intelligent. Robots are also intelligent. Computers are also intelligent. So the very religious assumption is deconstructed and linked with the non-human also. And this idea is well represented in Solaris, where in this novel, we see that scientists encounter a mysterious sentient ocean on the planet Solaris. And this ocean appears capable of reading human minds and materializing their memories. As in Paolo Bacigalupi's The Wind Up Girl, we see that the wind up girl is still intelligent, though she is non-human. She's a non-human girl. So the idea of non-intelligence, idea of feelings, emotions, intellectuality, and rationality is now linked with the non-humans as well. So the very religious assumptions are again questioned and challenged. And posthumanism questions that the ocean in this Solaris functions almost like a cosmic intelligence beyond the human comprehension. And the human scientists attempt to understand it through rational and scientific framework, but they fail. So the scenarios resembles a theological encounter with the unknowable divine. As in this novel, Lem, the protagonist, deliberately blurs the boundaries between scientific discovery and the religious mystery. And it suggests that human categories like science or religion may be inadequate for understanding non-human consciousness. Another perspective is that technology replacing or transforming the religious salvation. As the technological advancement transcends and competes with religious salvation. For example, the traditional religions promise, promise the transcendence through heaven, resurrection, enlightenment, and the divine grace. But the post-humanism often imagines technological alternatives to these promises. And what are those alternatives? They are, for example, in the novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, presents the religion of Mercurism that allows followers to experience a mystical collective suffering through a technological device called an empathy box. And this raises the post-human questions that is the religious experience authentic if mediated through technology? I mean, if we use the technology in our worship, in our spirituality, is that religious experience authentic? And does the empathy become a technological simulation rather than a spiritual reality? So again, the empathy connected with the human being changes during this age of science and technology, as we have the artificial intelligence that can be empathetic, that can be feel emotions, that can be intellectual rational. So posthumanism interrogates and raises a question whether this empathy becomes a technological simulation rather than a spiritual reality. The novel suggests that religion may become technologically constructed that blurs the distinction between the faith and the simulation. The hybrid bodies and the question of the soul becomes most important in the post-human theory as well. And when we link it with the religion, as many religions depend on the idea of a stable human soul that is distinct from the human body. And post-human literature challenges this assumption through cyborgs, clones, and bioengineered humans. And this idea can be well represented and seen in Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro, as the novel follows the cloned human bodies who are raised to become organ donors. Though the society treats them as biological resources, they possess emotions, memories, and artistic creativity. So a post-humanism theological question emerges here that if these clones can love like humans, they can dream like human beings, they can suffer like human beings, do they possess human souls? So this novel implicitly critiques the religious assumptions that human uniqueness guarantees moral superiority. Instead, it suggests that humanity may lie not in biology, but in ethical recognition and the empathy. So, as I earlier mentioned that because religion is a faith system and human is intelligent, emotional, feelingful, it is rational and intellectual, and that's why it creates some faith. It believes on the faith, it believes on the religion. But when everything else who is not human but still has the rationality, the intellectuality, still is emotionally intelligent, so does the faith become the authority and the possession of human only, or it transcends the species boundaries? And when we see that human can think and feel, they have the soul, does the post-human technology, artificial intelligence, who can feel, who can think like the drones, like the robots, like other technological devices, if they feel, if they can love, if they can suffer or dream, do they possess the soul? So posthumanism raises this one question in the literary scholarship. So it says that humanity may not lie in biology, but in ethical recognition and the empathy. And that human uniqueness, which granted the moral superiority, is no more morally superior because those human uniqueness are found in other non-human entities as well. Next perspective is that ecological spirituality and the sacred planet, as the posthumanism also intersects with the environmental ethics that challenges the religious belief that nature exists primarily for human use. As anthropocentric believes that human is at the center of the universe and the nature exists for the use of the human only. And this idea is well represented in Paolo Bacigalupi's The Wind-Up Girl, where the climate collapse and the genetic engineering dominate the world, where the corporations control the food production, and where bioengineered humans called wind-ups exist as artificial beings. So religion in this novel appears fragmented and powerless in the face of ecological catastrophe, and yet the narrative implicitly raises the question, and that question is, should artificially created beings also belong with the moral and spiritual community, as the wind-up girl is artificially created human being? She works, thinks, and acts like human being. So the very idea that if artificial if the human being can have the moral and spiritual experience, can the artificially created human beings can also have the moral and spiritual experience? And this novel suggests that sacred must extend beyond the natural humans to include the engineered life forms and ecosystems. And another perspective of the posthumanism is interspecies compassion and ethical religion. As Donna Haraway even writes a book, When Species Meet. So where the interspecies compassion and its narrative emphasizes the new forms of spiritual ethics that include animals and the non-human life. For example, the life of Pi portrays a boy that is stranded on a boat with a tiger. So this story blends Hinduism, Christianity, and Islam while emphasizing the deep connection between human and the animal survival. And from a post-human perspective, we see that the tiger on that boat represents the animal other within the human identity. And here, faith becomes a shared existential struggle between species. So this novel therefore suggests that spirituality may emerge from coexistence with non-humans life rather than domination over it. And let us see that how these all ideas are comparatively represented through a post-human lens. So in religion, we talk about the divine revelation, and traditionally the God was associated with the humans only, and non-humans are excluded. That's why it said that God communicates with humans. And revelation may occur across species, as post-human theory reinterprets that this revelation is not human-centric, but it may occur across the species, whether it's the human, whether it's the animal, whether it's the trees, plants, everything. And this idea can be seen in the book of Strange New Things. Then religiously, the soul is also linked with the humans. Traditionally, the soul is a unique spiritual essence of humans. But in posthumanism, the non-human beings may possess consciousness or the moral worth. And Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro well represents this whole idea. The religious experience is traditionally linked with the spiritual encounter with God. And in posthuman literary theory, the technologically mediated spirituality replaces the spiritual encounter with God. And do androids dream of electric sheep represents this idea. And the divine mystery that God is unknowable, transcendent being is traditionally linked with the anthropocentric notion. But in post-human theory, we encounter that the God encounters with incomprehensible alien intelligence. The very idea that human is only intelligent and the God is unknowable, transcendent being is changed with incomprehensible alien intelligence. And Solaris represents this idea. Then we also link the sacred life, and human are considered as sacred creation traditionally, but posthumanism engineers artificial life and says that it may deserve the moral status. So it raises the questions of the moral status of the non-humans as well. And Wind Up Girl by Bucky Galupi represents this idea. And when we see the human and nature relation, traditionally human is considered as stewards of the nature. Humans are considered as the users of the nature, are the guard of the nature. But posthumanism philosophy changes this idea and says that human is ecologically interdependent of the nature. Human is interdependent and interlinked with the ecology. So all the species are interlinked. They are the part of this whole chain. Human is not unique, not separate, not isolated, but it is interlinked, co-related with the ecology. And this idea is represented in the life of Pi, where the tiger and the Pi, they both live on the same boat. So post-human theory post-human literary narratives do not simply reject religion as it was seeming that post-human theory first rejects the human autonomy, challenges the human agency, and the third, it rejects the religion. But it's not so. Post-human theory doesn't reject or deny the religion. Rather, it expands the scope of theological inquiry. So it expands that religion is not human-centric. It is not human faith, but it is cultural constructed faith. And that religion, that spirituality can expand beyond the human experience. And by introducing aliens, artificial intelligence, clones, and ecological systems, these texts force readers to reconsider long-standing religious assumptions about human uniqueness, human soul, and the divine communication. And the works like the Book of Strange New Thing demonstrates that faith itself may become post-human, capable of crossing the species boundaries and adopting to radically different forms of life. So in such narratives, religion no longer belongs exclusively to humanity, but becomes part of a broader cosmic and ecological network of consciousness. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'm hoping to meet you with another amazing topic with more critical insights. Take care.